Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? The routines, the habits, the tracking. And yet somehow it still feels like you're falling behind. It's a quiet, heavy feeling, isn't it? This sense that no matter how much you improve, you're still just a slightly better version of a person who is fundamentally unfinished. I'm so glad you're here because today, I want to talk about something that many of us are carrying without even realizing it. This isn't a video about how to be more productive or how to reach your goals faster. In fact, it's about the exact opposite. It's about the quiet, liberating possibility of letting go, of the need to constantly fix, improve, and optimize every single corner of your existence. We often hear that the goal of life is to reach our full potential. But sometimes, that very idea can start to feel less like an inspiration and more like a deadline we can never quite meet. We're told that if we just find the right system, the right morning routine, or the right way to manage our energy, we'll finally feel done. But what many people eventually notice is that optimization often promises us a sense of control, while quietly stealing our ability to actually be present in the lives we're working so hard to perfect. This is the part many people don't realize. That when we treat our time like a resource to be mined, we stop experiencing it as a life to be lived. Think about the last time you sat down to just be. Perhaps you were looking out a window or sitting with a cup of coffee, and for a fleeting second it was enough. But then, almost reflexively, that little voice inside starts to chime in. It asks if you should be reading something educational, or if you could be listening to a podcast to maximize this dead time. It's as if we've been conditioned to feel a flicker of guilt for any moment that isn't tied to a measurable outcome. We've turned our hobbies into side hustles and our rest into a recovery strategy, as if even sleep is just a way to prepare our machinery for another day of high-output performance. It can start to feel like we're no longer people, but rather software that needs constant updates. And that's a heavy way to live. Some people describe it as living in a state of perpetual preparation, where the real, joyful part of life is always just one more habit away. We think once I get my fitness on track, then I'll be happy. Or once I master this new skill, then I'll feel confident. But life doesn't actually happen in that then. It's happening right now in the middle of the mess, the inefficiency, and the unfinished projects. Here's what optimization quietly replaces. It replaces the depth of experience with the speed of achievement. We've become so good at tracking the metrics of our lives, our steps, our calories, our focus hours, that we sometimes forget what it feels like to just move because it feels good, or to eat because we're enjoying the flavor, or to work because we're genuinely curious. When everything is measured, everything starts to feel like a performance. Even our self-care can start to feel like another item on a to-do list, another chore to be checked off so we can prove to ourselves that we're winning at being human. But you don't have to win at being human, you already are one. It's increasingly expected that we should always be on, always evolving, always leveling up. But nature doesn't work that way. A forest isn't optimizing itself. It just grows, decays, rests, and changes. There are seasons for everything, including seasons where very little measurable progress is made. Yet so much is happening beneath the surface. Many people find that when they stop trying to optimize their lives, they don't actually become lazy or lose their edge. Instead, they find something much more sustainable. They find their own natural rhythm. They discover that they can still be ambitious and disciplined, but that those things can come from a place of genuine desire rather than a fear of being suboptimal. It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to look at your life, not as a project to be managed, but as a room to be inhabited. In a project, every detail is a problem to be solved. In a room, you can just sit down. You can notice the light coming through the window, the texture of the furniture, the quietness of the space. You don't have to fix the room to enjoy being in it. Many of us treat our bodies, our minds, and our relationships like they are in a constant state of repair, as if the goal is to reach a version of ourselves that is finally bug-free. But the most beautiful parts of being alive are often the most inefficient ones. A long, rambling conversation with a friend that goes nowhere. A walk where you get a little bit lost. An afternoon spent pursuing a hobby you're actually quite bad at, simply because it's fun. These aren't wasteful moments. They are the moments that make a life feel like it belongs to you. This is where the quiet pressure really hides. It's in the idea that we have to justify our existence through our output. But what if your value isn't tied to your optimal performance? What if you are allowed to be tired or inconsistent or perfectly ordinary? People often describe a sense of relief when they realize that they don't have to be the CEO of their own personal brand every single day. You are allowed to just be a person who exists, who feels things, and who doesn't always have a plan for the next 6 months. It can start to feel like we're trapped in a loop of self-improvement where the finish line keeps moving further away. Every time we master one habit, we're told about 3 more we should be doing. It's an exhausting race because the goal isn't actually to reach a destination. The goal of the optimization industry is to keep you optimizing. But you can choose to step off that treadmill whenever you want. You can decide that good enough is a wonderful place to live. Choosing to stop optimizing isn't about giving up on your dreams or lacking discipline. It's about reclaiming the space that constant fixing takes up in your mind. It's about letting your life be a bit more spontaneous and a bit less programmed. Many people notice that when they stop tracking every little thing, they actually start noticing the things that matter more. They notice the way the air feels in the morning. They notice the subtle shifts in their own moods without immediately trying to fix them. With a supplement or a breathing exercise, they start to trust themselves again, rather than trusting an app or a guru to tell them how they're doing. Here is something many people don't realize until they slow down. Life is not a problem to be solved, it's a reality to be experienced. When we approach our days with a checklist of optimizations, we're essentially saying that our life as it is right now isn't quite right. We're saying that we need to be better before we can truly start living. But that's a heavy burden to carry, especially when better is a moving target. It can feel like you're always living in the waiting room of your own life. What if you just walked into the main house? What if you decided that the version of you who is here right now, with all the unfinished goals and the imperfect routines, is actually the version of you that is most capable of experiencing joy? There is a quiet liberation in being unoptimized. It's the freedom to change your mind, to do something for no reason at all, and to let a day be unproductive without feeling like you've failed some invisible judge. Many people find that their most creative ideas and their deepest realizations come not during their focus blocks but in the gaps, in the moments of boredom, in the long showers, in the quiet drives where they weren't trying to learn anything or achieve anything. These gaps are where life actually breathes. If we fill every gap with optimization, we leave no room for the unexpected. We leave no room for the magic that only happens when we aren't looking for it. It's okay to have goals, it's okay to want to grow. But perhaps we can grow more like a tree grows, slowly, steadily, and with plenty of time for dormant winters. You don't need to be in a constant state of peak performance. No one can sustain that, and more importantly, no one should have to. It's increasingly common to feel like we're falling behind if we aren't constantly learning or improving. But falling behind what exactly? A social media feed? A hypothetical version of yourself that doesn't actually exist? The truth is, there is no behind because there is no single track we're all supposed to be on. Your life is your own, and it doesn't have to look like a high-performance case study. It can look like a series of quiet afternoons, a collection of favorite books, and a few close relationships that you nurture without a strategy. It can look like being a bit messy and a bit disorganized, and still being deeply, fundamentally okay. As we move through this world that is constantly asking for more of us, more data, more growth, more efficiency, maybe the most radical thing we can do is to say no, thank you. To decide that our time is ours to waste if we want to. To decide that being present is more important than being productive. Some notice that when they stop trying to optimize their joy, they actually find more of it. They stop worrying about whether they are resting correctly and just rest. They stop worrying about whether their hobbies are useful and just play. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about finally allowing yourself to be who you already are. It's about trusting that you are enough, even when you're not doing anything at all. The most meaningful moments in our lives are almost never the ones we've optimized. They are the ones that caught us by surprise. The ones that were a bit inefficient, a bit slow, and totally unmeasured. Those are the moments we remember when we look back. Not the day we perfectly hit all our macros or finished our entire to-do list by noon. But the day we sat on the porch and talked until the sun went down. Or the day we spent 4 hours on a drawing that we eventually threw away. Life is meant to be inhabited, not managed. It's a messy, beautiful, unscripted experience that doesn't need to be polished into a final product. You are allowed to take up space without having to prove your utility. You are allowed to just exist. So, as you go about your day, perhaps you can try to leave a few more gaps. Maybe you can ignore the urge to maximize your next free 10 minutes. Maybe you can let a project stay unfinished for a while longer. And see what happens in the space it leaves behind. You might find that when you stop trying to optimize your life, you finally have the room to live it. It's a gentle shift, a quiet turning of the tide, but it can make all the difference in the world. You are not a machine, you are a person. And that is more than enough. If this reflection resonated with you, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for being here.